Okay.
All right, call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Patrick,
Here.
Patterson,
Here.
Jessica, Lyons,
Here.
Mazer,
Here.
Peter,
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
All right, everybody stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment?
No.
All right. Item 4, the return to school model.
Okay. I'm going to probably stand up here, I think. You have a clicker, Matt? Oh, you're clicking it? Oh, okay. All right. We've been working the last several weeks on taking a look at our back-to-school plan. If we just to have the planning in place, not knowing what the timeline would be, and I'm going to just review some things with you tonight on where we're at with this plan and some thoughts that we have in regards to a safe return. The priorities here have stayed the same: employee, student, and parent safety, flexibility to meet the needs of all students and families, high quality instruction, and maintaining fiscal solvency. Put a little quote there that says, "Stay committed to your calling, but write your plans in pencil," because that's really what's happened here. We've our calling is to get the kids back in school in a safe way, but the plans have been changing. So, what guidelines do we follow has been an item that I want to make sure we reiterate at the beginning here. It's under the governor's executive order. It does say that in phase 4 we can reopen under the guidance of the Illinois Department of Public Health. We had collaboration with the task force, the pandemic planning committee, and our administrators and staff have collaborated through this. So the presentation summary here is going to be, I'm going to walk you through the five different phases here: the decision-making guidance, the blended hybrid model, the health and safety, the logistical solutions, and the next steps. Okay, I'm going to pull this up on my screen right now, real quick. Sorry. Okay. So in this slide here that you're seeing, these are some metrics that are new to Lake County. And as soon as one of the reasons that we made the decision to hold off coming back to school is because we really didn't know in August. We had a lot of logistics that were problems, but we also didn't know like how serious the virus was in our own zip codes. We didn't know how prevalent it was, and there were no metrics that told us, gave us. We really were after some metrics from Lake County to find out, some guidance from them in regards to the seriousness. And on our weekly calls with the Lake County superintendents, we have weekly calls with the health department. They've been working. They heard us, and they've done a great job. I have to give Mark Pfister and his team a lot of credit because they've created some metrics that they feel are based on science, and it gives us some solid guidance as to what models of instruction we should be considering based on the metrics. And the metrics go all the way down. And I know on that slide for you guys, it's hard to see up there. At home, they'll be able to see it a little easier. But the metrics zero down to our zip codes. So for our specific district. So the first metric, we're staying here on this. The first metric is the positivity rate. And right now, on the far right, you see yellow, 5.83% positivity rate. That's for our 4 zip codes. The yellow means the health department recommends, if it's in yellow, that we're okay to be in a hybrid model. So the next one is the incidence rate per 100,000 people. And we are at 9.5 per 100,000, which they recommend is at a hybrid learning model. The COVID-like illness admissions is a little bit, I call this one a kind of a goofy metric. It's, there's very few COVID-like illness admissions to hospitals. But according to their chart, we haven't had 7 out of 10 that are, 7 out of 10, the last 7 out of 10 days have not shown decreasing admissions, but so technically it's showing that we should be in virtual based on that data. But I think that said there's only right now there's only 1 COVID-like admission in Lake County. So it's not an alarming statistic by any means. And then the last one they put some stock in is the diagnostic turnaround time. And that's when you get a test, how long is it taking to get the result back? And right now they're averaging 2 days, so they feel good about that. Anything, it used to be greater than 10 days, and that basically the testing wasn't doing any good for the county. So that would be when they want us in virtual. Between 3 and 10 days, they would recommend a hybrid. Right now we're at 2. So based on the metrics, if I were to show these metrics for our zip codes to Lake County Health Department, they would say you should be fine to be in a virtual or a hybrid environment. The next slide is, it'll be impossible to read on this screen up here, but this is just I'm going to send it out tonight. I'm going to send out all these slides to everybody, but this is just for your purpose right now, it's a slide that gives us very solid procedures in place to handle situations when we have students or staff that are either symptomatic, or they've had a COVID diagnosis, or they've been a close contact for somebody with a COVID diagnosis. This just gives us a guide for how do we respond to these situations. This is something we also did not have in August. So that's another change. So the logistics that still remain, maintaining 6-foot social distancing, face coverings at all times. I won't read all these, but single symptoms do cause disruption. So if somebody comes to school with a symptom, it does cause some disruption for us. There's quarantine space needed in each building. No more than 50 students in a space, individuals in a single space. Bus capacity is limited. PPE for nurses and staff cleaning COVID exposure areas. That's with N95 fitted masks. And then we still have the fact that the guidance continues to change. I just got an update yesterday. So the one thing that's different now is that we just didn't have enough information. So now we're going to go to instructional models. We have a blended hybrid 2.0 basically. So one of the things we've had to do is switch our planning for this blended model. If you remember, we talked about this summer doing a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And there were some obstacles with that we just couldn't overcome in regards, and I'll go through some of those in a little bit. So we've switched our model, but with this we will still have, we'll still be following Illinois state learning standards. We're looking to have students commit to coming half days, Monday through Thursday. They'll be assigned to remote learning activities for the other half of each day. They'll have access to in-person instruction from teachers, as well as access to personalized online learning programs the district has purchased. All instruction will be provided remotely on Fridays. And I'll explain a little more there as we get into this. So for families who choose full remote, because families will have the option. If they want to if they prefer to stay in the remote model. I want to be very transparent with all of you about this because it's really hard. Right now we have families who feel good about what we're providing them at home and feel very comfortable with it. We also have a lot of kids that are really struggling and families that are struggling. If we come back in this blended model, it's, the expectation for, and we've provided some excellent online learning tools for home, but our teachers are not going to be as accessible to those students that are choosing the 100% remote model. And so they're not going to be as accessible. It's one of the reasons why we're taking the Friday as a full virtual day, so our teachers can spend more time with the students that are doing virtual and on Fridays. And then our students that are on campus for 4 days a week will do asynchronous learning on Fridays at home. So that's one of our thoughts for the Fridays. So this is something that I just want to be very clear about because I'm fully aware that no matter what we decide tonight, we're going to make a lot of people angry and we're going to make a lot of people happy. So it's one of those things, and that's an area that I'm struggling with. And I think our administrators are all struggling with a little bit. Is we want to make sure we want there to be equity for our kids that are at home. We don't want them to be shorted. So we're trying hard, but we also know we can't overload our teaching staff. It's a really hard. They're dealing with a lot right now too. So so we're trying to provide this in-person instruction and still provide support for those students at home. If we have a large population of kids that want to stay home, we might be able to adjust some things to provide more support. Because if we have fewer kids on campus, we're going to have more adults available to do that. But I can't tell you that that's going to happen yet. So the slide that's up there is a sample, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but a sample schedule for a primary elementary. You'll see in-person learning from 8:30 to 10:50, remote learning from 12:35 to 3:15. We have to have, that's for group A. The other group B just flips it. We have to have that large chunk of time in between because we have to have time to do cleaning of all those rooms in between sessions. So we have all that worked out, but I got some notes on the side there that they're basically again, I don't want to read through all of those, but we've got the reason we have that split there is so we have time to clean not only the classrooms but the buses as well. And then on the next slide you'll see a sample middle school schedule. It starts a little earlier than primary and elementary because we have to have a stagger, 7:30 to 10, and then 12:10 to 2:40, 2 sessions, and either group A or group B. And we'll split them. Our plan right now is to split by alphabet, by last name, but we will be making some adjustments to balance class sizes if needed. So the next slide is an explanation of why the AM/PM model. And so reasons. I listed some bullets here that are reasons why we decided to make this switch. This model removes the risks associated with properly executing lunch and recess protocols. So we had to get the social distancing during those times is really difficult. We found with our safe school learning space that we have, it works really well until we get the kids outside in an unstructured time, and then it's just hard to manage that. And then lunchtime, we can only have 50 students in a room, so that just obstacles that we can eliminate by doing the AM/PM model. Fewer transitions during the day for students. This only makes, now they only have to wear masks for half the day, then they can go home. So it's not a full day with masks on. Class sizes are reduced. We figure there's some benefit to the social emotional and the consistent educational impact of just seeing their teachers and peers regularly 4 days a week. Even though it's only 2.5 hours, it's still a step in the right direction. We'll emphasize ELA and math instruction in the K-4 during that 2.5 hours. That's what they will get, is ELA and math instruction. There'll be more in-person time for students with IEPs or those who qualify for EL and 504 services. There are, and I'll get to some negatives of the AMPM model in a little bit because it's not all positive. There are some drawbacks. I'm going to skip through these slides fairly quick, but these will be provided for parents. You can go next slide, Matt. These are just sample student schedules and what that will look like for the students. So that's a primary and elementary, and then the next one is a middle school schedule. And then we'll go to the next slide. These next few slides will provide, and again, I'm going to be sending this over to parents tonight, actually. I'm going to try to, when we're done here, if we approve this plan, I'm going to send a message out to parents, both digitally and a video as well. I'm going to skip through these slides a little quicker, but I want you to ask questions if you have any at the end. There's some information on this slide about our special education and how it's impacted. The next slide is regarding pre-K and how it's impacted. All the information's here for those two. You know, I will tell you with the special education, we see benefits in getting our kids on campus and getting more in-person instruction for them. But it's been a challenge for Dr. Pittman and her staff to keep changing from one format to another is a challenge because we've got to get all the plans correct. So it's not, and then pre-K, I'll go into a little further detail, but they'll rerun an AM/PM session as well. Our students, our EL learners, we have a slide in here depicting what we'll be doing with, or how they'll be receiving service. But again, we feel like more in-person time is going to benefit our EL students as well. On the Fridays, we anticipate bringing more students in for special services if needed. So those are days that most of our students will be learning remotely, but we will have students on campus who need extra services. The Safe School Learning Space there's been questions about, good questions, like we started this, we're not going to stop it. We have parents that are counting on this and we're still going to still continue that. So those students would attend the Safe School Learning Space for half the day and then would be in their classrooms the other half of the day. So we'll continue with that program. So the next grouping of slides is the health and safety factors. And so I'm going to run through these. Many of these are not a surprise, but face coverings must be worn at all times. There's a few exceptions listed there. We have purchased KN95 masks for all staff who've requested. So we asked all staff if you want them, and we've purchased enough for those masks are good for 2 days is what we're thinking, and so we purchased enough for staff to use one for every 2 days. Some of the hospitals I've talked to are giving their staff one per week, and they haven't put it in a bag, paper bag, to let it breathe when they're not using it, but we're doing 2 per every 4 days. So, and then our nurses and cleaning staff are getting fitted N95 masks. The cleaning and disinfecting. So with the AM/PM model, we had to create a plan to get all those rooms wiped down in between sessions. So we do have that in place. Mrs. Arndt is running that process. And so we do have that in place. Buses also have to be cleaned between routes. We have that in place. To be honest with you, back in June when we were considering this plan, I kind of nixed it in my mind right away because of the transportation issues. We think we've worked around that a little bit, but the transportation cleaning makes this hard, but we think for educationally it's going to be more doable. We have all of our buses, all the buildings will be fogged each night with a safe chemical that has been approved. We'll do the same in the buses. And then we have our regular custodial staff on site. We have over 100 hand sanitizing stations throughout the buildings. As you walk around, you'll see them all over the place right now. So those are also new. The air filtration system is, I talked with our HVAC contractor. We're setting the automation system while the weather permits. It's 100% ventilation rate, and then as the weather changes, it will go lower than that, but it will be a lot higher than what we've ever done. So it means our system's going to have to work a little harder, but it's what's recommended right now. And we've also gone through, next week we will have all the filters upgraded to what the CDC is recommending for this environment. So each classroom that we have has its own, so air is not, the way I understand this, the air is not transferring from one to the other. It's all being, we have univents in each classroom. So that air exchange is happening in each classroom. So they're pulling fresh air into every classroom. So and there's filters in every classroom as well. We have purchased some rapid response antigen tests. It's a saliva sample, results in less than 30 minutes. We haven't purchased a lot of these. I've got, I think, 100 that we've purchased, and just to try to have them on site for if we have a staff member that comes down with symptoms during the day, we'll give them that test right away to kind of get an idea. It will likely be followed up with another test if needed, but we have that. We're trying that, and to see how that's going. I know some districts I've talked to are also doing the same. The self-certification and temperature checks. This was kind of a obstacle at the beginning of the year that I didn't really know how we were going to do, and so this one did not go away. Had to figure something out. Kind of gone to I think it's going to be, for us to manage it, it's going to be a simpler process. But really, we have to emphasize to parents, and I'm going to do that in my call tonight. We really have to emphasize pretty hard that we cannot have people sending their kids to school with symptoms, because that's what's going to shut us down. So we have created. This is going to sound kind of corny, I guess, but we've had printed notepads that have all the symptoms listed, and we're giving every parent a stack of notepads for their child, each child, and when their child comes to school, they will rip one off, and that's their child's ticket to get to school, and it's saying, by coming to school today, by sending your child to school today, you are saying they do not have any of these symptoms. So that's basically their bus ticket. That's their ticket to walk in the front door. If they don't have it, we will take them to the nurse for a screening. But the bus, they have to have it to get on, because we can't have our drivers trying to worry about driving and that. So they're going to have to, that's going to be, and so we're asking our K-4 students will have to have a parent at the bus stop, because if the kindergarten student does not have their ticket to get on the bus, we need them to go home with an adult. So that's going to be something that is, it's what we have to do. The other option was we make our staff self-certified through Skyward. The parents have that capability to do that for their children as well, but the problem is everybody would have to remember to do that every day before their kid gets in school, and that's going to be nearly impossible for us to manage that. So we're asking the parents to hand their child that ticket, and that's a reminder to them to make sure that their child is symptom-free, and then they'll give us that when they come. And we'll also do temperature checks when the kids get in the buildings. So every child will get a temperature check as well. So that'll be kind of our second layer. Logistics, we're going to go to transportation. And again, a lot of this is on I don't want to read through every bullet, but I'll briefly get them. But a lot of these slides are informational for everybody. We're highly encouraging parents to not take our transportation system services unless they absolutely need it, because we just don't have the room. We're going to put 20 to 22 kids on a bus, and siblings can sit together, but otherwise it's going to be one per seat. So, part of our board meeting tonight is to take a look at our transportation policy. it's board policy and consider suspending it. The current policy says that we provide transportation for all students. If we're going to open up, I can't guarantee that we can open up and still provide transportation if all students sign up for it. We wouldn't be able to open up. And so we are hoping that we can meet everybody's needs, but if we can't, we'll have to lottery the bus or something. I don't know. So it's really going to depend on what kind of response we get back from parents in the next week, and I'll go into those details in a minute. We can go to the next slide. And the next slide. This is just some assigned seating and transportation. And we're not going to seat anybody behind the bus driver, and just some bus expectations there. Food service. I'll be on this slide very quick. Food service will be provided for students. Will not be provided for students who are in the blended hybrid model because they'll be here for just 2.5-hour chunks. They'll go home. We still do our food service deliveries for families on Fridays now. It'll switch to Fridays. And we have reached out to all families to see if they need that service. So we've got a waiver from the state for that. Students who attend safe school will still get lunch here. We have a technology slide that has some FAQ questions on there. We can go to the next one, Matt. Students are going to be reminded on the technology. They got to bring their devices every day, charged up. We don't have a lot of extra devices laying around right now. Arrival procedures. If there's anything that's making me nervous about this, it's our dismissal and our arrival. Traffic is going to be tough, and which is one of the reasons why we are going to phase this in, which again I'll get to in a few slides. But so arrival, it really is just the traffic flow is something we're going to have to really keep an eye on. Let's go to the next slide. The dismissal. Dismissal is going to be even worse than arrival because we have people that will come and want to get in line, and we're playing around with an app that should help with this process. As you pull onto the parking lots, you'll have a dash tag, and somebody will be there to see your dash tag, and they'll punch that number in, and they'll notify your child's class that you're here, and hopefully by the time you get to the doors, we'll have the child out. So we want to try to keep the line moving. So that's something we're working on, and we will have that in place. We're going to be trying that with our safe school learning students in the coming week. So our next steps, getting down to our final slides here. If we make this transition, we'd like to do it on October 13th, which is the day after Columbus Day, and try one grade level in each building, kindergarten, second, and fifth grade. So that gives each building a chance to spend 2 weeks problem solving issues that are going to arise. So that's our first phase. Second phase, if things are going well, would be to bring on October 26th, bring first, third, and sixth grade in, along with the kindergarten, second, and fifth. So then we would have more kids in each building. And if things continue to go well, we'll enter the last phase of the transition, and that's bringing in the rest of the grade levels, pre-K, 4th, 7th, and 8th. So at that point, on November 9th, that's the first day of the second trimester. So if we were to get this done in time, our students would start their second trimester with all students in at least part-time. But again, there's a lot of things that could happen between now and then. I can't reiterate that enough. Like we might find out that traffic is just jamming us up, and with just 2 grade levels, we might find out it's just jamming us up. So we might have to go to back to the drawing board and figure out how to do this. And kids may not be able to come 4 days a week; they'd come 2 days a week. And so I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to follow this, but that's our goal. If everything works well, that's what we want to do. And we also don't know what's going to happen with the metrics. At any time, the metrics in the area could shut us down. So we want to keep people safe. But that's our timeline as of right now. The communication to families, I had said at the beginning of the year that we would notify families by the 30th, which is tomorrow, of any next steps that might be taken. So if we approve this tonight, I will notify the parents soon, either tonight or tomorrow. what we're thinking about doing. If we don't approve it, then I will notify them of that as well, that we're going to continue in the hybrid model, or the virtual model. I'm going to go to the next slide. There's another dashboard that we're looking at, and Dr. King put this together because there are other factors that could cause us to close that are kind of out of some of them are out of our control. Custodial status, right now we are in a good status. There's data behind this dashboard that you're not seeing, but we know how many people we need, and so we've set the thresholds to, if we drop below certain thresholds, that dashboard is going to change. Right now, transportation status, we have the drivers that we need, but I will tell you, we are just on the edge with drivers. We don't have a lot of extra availability. We've had some turnover, and there are not drivers out there that are applying for jobs right now, at least here. We have, obviously, school staff attendance says good right now because we're not in session. Certified teacher attendance, we're not in session. So we have some thresholds set, and as we get started with this, we'll be punching data in this daily. One of the big issues is substitute teacher availability. We have secured 3 subs per building for 4 days a week, just because we're going to need them. And we may not know we need them until the last minute because of situations that have come up. So that's just a precaution that we have in place. But honestly, it was very hard to get those people set up. So we don't have a lot of subs beyond that are available. We will keep this dashboard on our website. It'll list all this information. People will be able to look on here to see student COVID cases, staff COVID cases. Hopefully those numbers stay very small. We don't want, obviously I feel personally responsible for any sickness that happens. So, but you'll see any quarantine numbers and those cases there. So we have an FAQ document that is pretty extensive, and the link is on this spreadsheet, or on these slides here that I'll be sending to parents tonight. So as we've been communicating together, we've been coming up with questions ourselves, and we've been getting questions from staff. We've had great questions from parents. Last night we had a very engaging Citizens Advisory Council meeting, and got some very solid feedback from that group, both positive and negative. And I'm going to tell you that some people are like I said before, some people are very comfortable with what we're doing right now and are nervous that we're making this change. So there are some negatives. You think of families that have rearranged their schedule to meet what we have right now, and now we're asking them to change that schedule, and knowing that it could go back at some other time. So there's some challenges there, and it's put us in a position to. I feel like we have to plan for this and try to get kids here, but I also understand where parents are coming from. They don't want to see the constant change. I also know that if I put a message out that said we're going to be in virtual learning for the rest of the school year, I don't think I would have a lot of happy campers either. So, there's been some good. A very valid comment is, why would we do this now when cold and flu season is getting ready to start? So that's a valid question. It's just if not now, then when? I guess the metrics that Lake County has given me is saying that we're ready. So we started this planning a month ago, not knowing when ready would be. But at this point, the 13th would be the soonest we could get started with all the things we got to do yet. So our timeline would be tonight, I send something out to parents. I give them until the 8 a.m. on October 5th, which would be Monday, to fill out a 2-question survey. 1, do you want blended, or do you want to stay in virtual? And 2, do you need transportation or not? That's really what we need to know. Because once we know all that information, then we've got a lot of work to do. And so we have about a week to get all that ready then. But I will tell you, we've got a lot of our administrators here tonight, and they've really worked their tails off on all of this. I think we're all just kind of, we're just strung out pretty hard right now. But this isn't going to go perfect, and we know that. And but we're ready to problem solve it as we have issues. So I think the phase in with one grade level at each building to start with might seem like a slow phase in because it's going to take till November 9th to get us there. But I think we need those 2 weeks to kind of see if this is even going to work, and then we'll add a grade level and see if that's going to work. I feel like if we bring them all back at one time, it's going to be a mess. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I'm open to fire away with questions. So apologize that took longer than I thought.
I guess my first one is, what is our protocol if students or a teacher get sick? So would we have to quarantine the whole class or just the teacher?
So if somebody were to get sick, if somebody would actually test positive with COVID, I'm going to read straight from something here. So the person that tests positive, obviously is going to stay home until the illness is over and no symptoms for 24 hours. And they get a release from isolation letter from the Lake County Health Department. So that's what gets them back into school or work.
Okay, so it's not a simple doctor's note. They have to
No.
work with the Lake County.
No, Lake County Health Department's involved in that, and they get a release letter from them. Somebody who's exposed to, so if we have a case in a classroom, students that we'll do some contact tracing. So students that are within 6 feet of an individual who has been diagnosed as positive, students who are within 6 feet for a cumulative of 15 minutes in a day, in a 24-hour period, they're considered close contacts. So that's why it's important for us to set up our rooms so that we don't have any of those situations. So you could, we don't want to, I would imagine, we haven't had to go through this yet, but I would imagine that the health department's going to say there's going to be students in a class, even if we have the 6 feet social distancing. I imagine there's going to be some that are going to want to quarantine. But one reason not to put 50 kids on a bus would be if you have a situation and now you've got a lot of kids that are involved that have to be quarantined. And we have to have seating charts for every room and every bus so we know where kids were at and when they were at those places. And this is another reason why the lunch and recess, taking it out of the mix, eliminates a lot of issues for us. So we have a pretty strong guidance from the county. I'll give you, so here's another example. I have a staff member right now whose son is at a high school and was exposed and was told to quarantine. So the staff member was asking me, do I need to quarantine? And technically, in this case, that's a contact of a contact. So they don't quarantine contacts of contacts, but you watch their symptoms and they make sure that. So we've learned way more than this than I want to know about, but we have a chart we go to that Lake County's given us that is pretty solid to meet and we didn't have that in August, so we were really shooting from the hip in August, which is another reason why we just didn't feel comfortable coming back.
And then how will you inform the parents then will you inform all the parents of the students in that class in case they want to, I don't know, keep their kids home and do virtual instead of being in class, or how are you going to let parents, or can you not inform the whole class?
We can, what we can do, and I have talked to the Lake County Health Department a little bit about this. We do have some guidance on this procedure. So we can make a general notification that somebody in the school has been, I don't know if we can go down to the class,
okay,
but I'll have to find that out. We can make a general notification, and then we let people know that if your child was a close contact, you will be contacted, like you will know. So they do but we will help them with that process. But we obviously can't give names and things like that. But yeah, we will do a. And I think if there are, it hasn't happened yet around here, but if there are multiple cases in a building, they would consider shutting the building down.
Okay.
So they don't have a specific number that I've seen, but I mean, I've read that 2 in an area, but I don't know the size of our buildings, what it would take, but if we had a couple cases, they could consider shutting it down too.
I have a question about blended versus virtual. So right now, kids are all learning remote with a teacher. If they choose to stay virtual, are they going to continue with that teacher but just not have as much contacts? How is that going to work?
Great question. They will continue with that teacher. The expectation that we're giving the teachers is that they would, throughout the week, they're going to assign asynchronous work for those kids, and then there will hopefully be time for communication back and forth, but there won't be necessarily Zoom contact until Friday. Now, I will say this, I think it's going to be a classroom by classroom decision, because some classrooms may have, if a teacher only has 1 or 2 students that are remote, she can handle it or he can handle it differently than a teacher that might have 10. Mm-hmm. So, a teacher that's only got 1 or 2 might feel like they can just bring them into the class virtually without a problem. As the kids get older, that's a lot easier. As the kid, at kindergarten, that's tough. So that's why it's hard for us to say what they're exactly going to get. I think at the middle school, I feel like you're probably going to see a little more of some teachers wanting to pipe their students into the room, but we're not guaranteeing that. We just want to see how this is going to go, and what the comfort level is for staff. So.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Are there any teachers that don't want to return to school, in-person teaching?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there are. And
Have you queried the teachers to see who's?
we did. So as far as don't want to or can't, so there's, because I know people are nervous, and I respect it. I do, and I hope they respect what we're trying to do as well. I don't want to put anybody in a dangerous situation. That's not the intent at all, and just trying to follow the guidance we're getting as well. So I know we have people that are nervous. Do we have some that can't? The number is small, and I'm working through those this week with some individual meetings, just to kind of talk to people about what we can do to make them feel like their safety needs are met given their situations. But there are some, there's some leaves that could take place, like people could take extended leaves if they just, so I don't have the number yet, but this week I'm doing some individual meetings and talking to people about that.
So there is a potential that a teacher who has a virtual class now may not be teaching that class come October.
There's a potential of that, yes, because if they can't come, there's potential of that we'd have. It'd be like somebody taking a maternity leave or something and having a sub. So there is potential for that. I don't think right now the number is very small, but there is potential.
Do we have staff to fill in to backfill that?
That's one of the, yeah, we do.
Okay.
Right now we do, but we don't have a lot. So that's going to be one of the things that we have to watch closely. That's why we put substitute availability on that dashboard, because that could tip us at any time.
So to understand the notepad slips, example, if parents drop off their kids.
Yeah.
Parent says, oh, here's the slip. Go ahead, you can go to school. But the kids that are taking buses, and sometimes the parent has to go to work and tell Mrs. Such and such, you'll go with her to the bus stop with her kid too. and then they get to the bus stop and that other child doesn't have a slip.
Mm-hmm.
The parent forgot to give it to him or something. Can that other person that's with the kid give him a slip, or are they named off? Or how would they?
If they just didn't have the slip, we'd probably ask that parent to bring that child to school, and then we would have our nurses do a screen. Because if they don't have the slip, we'll do a screening for them
Mm-hmm.
and have our nurses check them out before we let them in the classroom.
Okay.
So
Can, I guess, will the campus be open for visitors? So will, it's like in my district, you cannot visit the school, so no visitors on campus.
I think in our FAQ document, did we put something about that? I thought we did, yeah. Yeah, we said no.
Okay.
I thought I couldn't remember that. So
And then have you guys thought about assigning teachers just to teach virtual classrooms?
if the numbers of students that sign up for virtual dictate it, we could, but we'd have to shuffle kids away from teachers that they currently have built relationships with. That's what makes us a little bit leery of doing that. But if we have a large number of kids that want to stay virtual, we might consider doing that.
And then is the Friday also set aside for teacher training, since
The
they have both virtual and?
The Friday is Friday morning. There'll be touching base Zoom with students, and then Friday afternoons are all prep. And our early release days, we are when we have trainings, we're making them optional, so those can be prep time as well.
Walking throughout the schools, we've seen flexible learning spaces in almost a lot of the classrooms, and have those all been eliminated?
They are, I can't say that 100% yet because we haven't set up the classrooms, but they're going to be all in desks. I think they're,
So no more sitting on couches or rolling
No.
around on balls
Yeah.
or anything like that anymore?
balls, I'm not sure. Couches, yeah. I will have to check on that, Kevin. I'm not positive. I want to make sure. I don't want to tell you yes if it hasn't been taken out yet, but yeah, we'll have to,
That was one of my big concerns, because
Yeah.
I understand the importance of them and
yeah.
the value they have, but if I give a kid a chair with wheels, it
Yeah.
pretty much defeated the whole 6 foot.
Good point. Yep, good point.
All those items, they'll be taken out of the classrooms, right? Because the temptations will be there.
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we've
know other schools have taken them out.
taken them out.
Mhm.
We've talked
Completely.
about it. We're running out of a little bit of, I actually haven't talked to, I know Mr. Whipple and I talked about it here, because that's where a lot of it happens too, is we didn't come up with a location to put some of it, but he was going to ask some of the staff to, if it was personal stuff, he was going to ask them to take it home. But yeah, we'll work on that.
Will there be those shields at the desk for the teachers?
We have purchased those for
Everybody.
staff, yes. And we've purchased the KN95 mask, but also face shields if they want them. So they have face shields and mask, and then they also have the dividers at the desk if they, I think we bought one for every room, so.
And then for middle school, is it still going to continue in kind of a block schedule? I realize it's probably on one of your slides.
Yeah, it's similar, yeah. They're doing, so the middle school students have 6 periods. They're doing a little different. I like what they're doing, but they're doing, so if you come on Monday, your in-person time in the morning is for periods 1, 2, 3, and your afternoon is still periods 1, 2, 3, but that's your asynchronous time. So that day, you're only dealing with 3 classes,
Okay.
but you're going to get it twice. And Tuesday, you're going to get your other 3 classes in the morning and afternoon. Kevin, you have a list there. Go for it.
One of the slides said it was an emphasis on in-person instruction for ELA and math for K through 4. Does that, I mean, I know what the word emphasis means, but that doesn't mean that it's always going to be done.
Yeah, I think the way our schedules look right now, that is, yeah, there's a morning meeting, right? So they're doing a morning meeting, but then the rest of there's no specials. Everything else is from home,
For K through 4?
K4.
Okay.
So you guys doing like an A day and a B day? Like A is math, B is reading? So just that 3 hours is the teachers just pick? Or
They'll
they
have
do
both.
They have both? Okay. Okay.
So are they still getting the same amount they did before? Because it's like a 80-minute block or whatever it is. Yeah? Okay. And then temperature checks for the bus. I see the point of this little ticket. I see this as being a disaster, though. I mean, just seeing the kids, because what if a kid gets on the bus, loses it on the
Loses
bus,
it. Yeah.
forgets it on the bus, and they get in, and now we got backup at the nurse's station. I mean, I thought
So they have to actually get it. They're going to drop it in the bucket when they get on the bus.
Okay.
So so they won't get on the bus unless they have it.
Got it, okay.
Oh,
And then when they get out of their car, we'll have people out,
mhm.
and they'll just drop them in the bucket, go in the building.
I mean, what happened to like doing the temperature checks for the kids before they got? I know that was talked about at one meeting, that we were going to have a second bus rider, and they were going to just scan the kids as they come in.
Yeah, we just don't have the people. That's the problem. We're running out of people. And
Can the bus driver do it when the kids are walking on the bus?
I-
Because
I-
if she's only having 20-something
20 kids.
technically as they step on, she can.
for us, I mean, we can do it. It's just for us, it was a safety hazard. I just didn't want to distract the driver doing this and then forget what she got out of her routine. And
Right.
that was the reason we did it. We talked about it.
Right.
We
So
did talk
holding
about
parents
it.
more accountable.
What's that?
So you're holding parents more accountable.
Yeah. So I've talked to several districts about who are attempting some in-person. Just kind of, what are you doing? Because this issue is one I just couldn't get around. This whole self-certification thing. If everybody, like, I can get on my phone, and it takes me 10 seconds to self-certify on Skyward. Like, because it does my face identification, I just hit submit, done. But if everybody did it, it would be easy. But we just can't. We have no way of determining when that kid gets on the bus if their parent did that
Their
or
parent
not.
did that.
And so, so that's why we had to go this route. And so, what some are doing, which I didn't feel comfortable with, they're just telling parents, if you send your child to school, we are assuming that you've done the check. So they're not doing any kind of, but then when they come, they're doing a temperature check when they get in the building. Ideally, they tell, so that to me was not good enough. And so we're at least, by the parent, at a minimum, by the parent giving them this ticket, it's a reminder to the parent that they have to, I know it's not perfect, but I don't know how else to do it. The temperature check, ideally, they say, is once they're in the building for at least a couple minutes. They kind of get there, because when it's really cold outside, those temperatures are going to read cold until the kid gets kind of acclimated to indoor air.
What temperature do they have to be to not?
I think we have under 100.
Okay.
Yeah, 100.4 is the CDC's bar, but you can lower it to 100. So I think our nurses felt more comfortable at 100.
So have you thought about creating a Google? So we have a Google form that comes out at 6:30 a.m. to our email, and we fill out the form and submit it. So we have to have it done before we get to work. And then the parents also get a Google form in their email that they fill out, and it's, is your temperature under 100.4? Do you have any symptoms? And then you submit. I don't know if that'll work for you guys.
I mean, it would. What's been your experience with the percentage of your parents? How do you know when the kid gets on the bus if their parents done that?
Okay, so our bus drivers take their temperature when they get on the bus, but our buses are carrying about 12 kids. So as they get on, they take the temperature. So when they get to school, by the time they get to school, the nurse has a printout that she gives us and has all the kids whose parents didn't self-certify. So then someone stands out there and takes their temperature, and then they go into school. We haven't sent anybody home yet. So, I mean, it works. You just have to get your parents used to logging in. Going into Skyward might be harder. Getting the email is easier because you can just do
Yeah.
it right there. Otherwise, you got to remember to go in. But
Okay.
then when they forget, we just check it, and then the teachers have to contact the parent to remind them, hey, don't forget to self-certify.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, To me, that's easier than the paper, but
So if we wanted to not do the piece of paper, can we do Skyward as a parent? Or is it just like one or just?
It's going to have to be one, yeah, for
Gotta be-
us, we
yeah,
got to
it'd be
know.
hard.
It's got to be
For us, we just
universal,
figured
yeah.
it, if they're handing us this, that their parent has double-checked them, they know it, they're dropping it in a bucket, they go in. We're not even keeping, we're not keeping track of, did Johnny turn it in, or there's no names on it, there's nothing. We just, it's
Oh.
their, it's
so you don't
their-
know if the kid had the right one.
Well, if they got one, they got it from their parent. I mean,
Or another
because it's,
parent at the bus stop. For those, okay.
could have. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to rely on some honesty here with parents on this, but,
I just think that, I think you should look into doing
Okay.
temperature checks as they get on the bus. I mean, we said the most kids on a bus are going to be 20, 21, 22, where there used to be 70
Right.
before.
mhm.
And then how
I
many
mean,
kids are actually at a
It's-
stop?
That has to mean less stops,
Right. Well, less kids at a stop too.
less kids. I mean, I think there has to be time in the,
Right.
So what we're doing with the buses is, because the only way to make this work was to run 2 different bus fleets. So we have a roughly 7 or 8 buses that are going to go out from middle school and 7 or 8 buses that are going to go out from primary and elementary. Because the problem is, when those buses come back, we have to clean them, and they're going out 8 times. Because they're going to, if we tried to run one bus service for all and send 18 buses out to pick up middle school kids, they're going to pick up the middle school kids, come back, drop them off, clean the buses, turn around, go pick up the primary elementary, bring them back, clean the buses, by then turn around, pick up the middle school kids because they're done for their half day, do the whole thing over again, so it just doesn't work time-wise. If we did that time-wise, our last group of kids would be out of here after 5 p.m. So we couldn't do it. So now we've taken 8 buses for middle school, 8 buses for primary elementary, and which means that we can only bus, under 200 kids for each building. And so in the middle school, at the most we would have at one time would be around 400. So we'll be close to, I'd say 40% or so that we can bus. But those routes are going to be a little longer because we only have 8 buses covering the entire district. They're not going to have as many kids, so there won't be as many stops, like Kevin said. But the driving time will be a little longer because we're covering the whole area. So does that make sense? It's kind of a logistical nightmare, but it was the only way we could make it happen. And we can definitely explore resolving this temperature check issue, though, as they get on the bus.
I
But
just
isn't
think it-
every student getting a temperature check? They're either
Once they
getting
get
it-
in the school,
Once they
yes.
get
Once
in
they
the
get in the
school.
school.
Yep. Once they get in the school, they've got a temperature check. So we kind of figured if they have the ticket to get on the bus, then when they get here, we're going to do a check and do their temperature as well.
So you're taking double precaution.
It's a double precaution, yeah. Some are not even doing anything when they get on the bus. Some are doing temperature checks when they get on the bus with drivers. I didn't feel good about, and neither does Christine when we talked about it, just the safety factor of that. But if in case an accident happened, I just didn't want it to be because the driver got distracted.
so I guess that's my question. I don't understand. I get maybe someone can explain that more to me. I don't understand how the distractions would be greater now than when they were just by taking temperature. If they're going to have to take a ticket, they have to put the ticket in a bucket or have the kid put it in a bucket.
Yeah,
Now
they're-
they just walk by and just can't go, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't have their name, so you don't know who.
Yeah, so they don't know who
Yeah.
did what.
So we were just going to have them just drop the ticket in the bucket, driver's hands off. I just didn't want the driver to get. It's not that it couldn't work. I just want them to get distracted, and then they take off without checking everything that they're used to checking, and it just changes their routine. That's the only thing I was concerned about.
I think if someone comes in and you zap them and they're at 100.1, they go home.
Yeah.
Instead
And
of
then, because
coming
what if,
back.
From the bus stop.
what if now, if the parent does it, gives the kid the ticket, by the time they get on the bus, they're at 100.1. Now the parent's off at work, And, or they've got brother at the bus stop,
Yeah.
and now brother's got to walk Junior back home. He doesn't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I would worry too
How are
with
they
the
gonna get-
bus driver, like if the kid's getting on the bus without the temperature check and they're at 100.4, the bus driver has to bring the kid all the way to school so the kid's infecting other kids. 'Cause
Right.
if they're around the kid for 15 minutes, and then the bus driver's,
Okay.
so it's easier just to get on the zap, nope, and then off they go
Go
back
ahead.
home.
Maybe try to find paras or someone to put on. the
Yeah,
bus.
that'll be our first priority.
Some, right, yeah.
Is just to find some extra bodies
Extra bodies.
and to do that. So
Maybe temperature check.
I mean,
Um,
you're talking eight buses, right? Each.
8 at a time, 16 total.
16, yeah.
I don't know if they could cross over or not. I'd have to look at our timing to see if 8 people could cross over to the other buses. So we'll troubleshoot that one though.
So I'm thinking about carpooling. So I pick up Tiffany's children. Oh no, they forgot to give me the
Ticket.
ticket.
That's what I was saying.
So,
We'll send them to the nurse.
okay.
If it continues to happen repeatedly with the same families, we'll probably have to make some phone calls, say, hey, either do it or we're just going to have to go virtual because we can't do it every day. But yeah, if they don't have it, we have, because some people are going to forget. And but yeah, we'll have the nurses do a screening.
And then for the check-in when you're kind of like driving in to pick up, like say people do different carpools different days of the week.
Mm,
Because pretty much people are going to have to carpool to make this work.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what you'll have to do is, this will be a little inconvenient, but everybody's going to get a laminated car tag. And you'd have to have the tag for the kids you got in your car. You know what I mean? So if you're going to carpool with Tiffany, you'd have to get Tiffany's tag
So you
too.
gotta get my,
I don't see that.
Oh, they're going to give 2 tags. I didn't know that.
oh,
So you'd be able to give the tag to another family
so
then.
I can give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's just to try to help us speed up the dismissal is what it is. So
Mhm.
And I didn't see the times because they went by. So is there overlapping between the middle school and?
No.
Okay.
no, so there's just enough time to get middle school dismissed and out of here before the dismissal for primary elementary each
If you're
time.
picking your students up and you have some at both middle school and over there, how are you going to effectively get all of them and without children loitering around or students loitering around? So if you have a student at middle school, student at primary, student at elementary, how are you supposed to get through campus without there's being a delay at one of the schools
Yeah.
for the students?
If you have multiple pickups, it's going to be a challenge. It will be because you would have time to pick up your middle schooler first, drop them off at home, and they have to turn around and come back and get the other 2. I don't know if there would be a way to, because we had to stagger the times because we wouldn't be able to manage the traffic if everybody got dismissed at the same time. We thought about it, but it would just be too much. So yeah, if you have students in
Both buildings.
both buildings, it would be more of a challenge to get. You'd have to make 2 trips, I think.
Your children can't be left home alone. So I'm still driving my kids
In the morning.
in
Okay.
the morning or in the afternoon, and
Yeah.
will that impede in some of the learning time? I didn't have enough time to.
No,
adjust
it
all
wouldn't impede in the
times.
learning time. It's going to be a big inconvenience for the person that's got back when it's time for them to go to school.
Right.
And then an hour later, you're going to turn around and pick up your middle schooler.
Right.
So how is a person supposed to work and do this? Especially like if they're like, okay, I'm going to sign on, and they're working from home, and they're like, I'm going to drive my kids to school because I want them here because I'm hearing that you're prioritizing in-person learning over remote learning, just with direct teacher time,
Yeah.
contact time. So how are you supposed to, for the parents that have the ability to kind of work at home to do that?
Yeah. It's going to be hard. So that's why we're talking tonight. If you don't think that that's worth it, then we can turn it down and just say, because I don't know. It is going to be hard.
I guess when I hear that that the teacher is going to prioritize the in-person learning.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way to like live stream so the kids at home can be engaged with the teacher with the kids that are in person?
I mean, I think it's going to be more possible at the older ages. I just, at the early grades, it's just too much to expect.
K
I
through
think.
4, yeah. I
Yeah.
understand that would be
K4
very
would be really
difficult.
hard.
I'm just thinking, I guess, yeah, more middle
Yeah.
school, that be able to live stream it, so then families that choose to be home,
Mm-hmm.
they're not missing out because they don't want to send their kids to school. That they, best of both worlds kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it might necessarily be a choice if you have to come 4
Well,
times.
right.
Also, if you have students in
Right.
different buildings.
Yeah.
And I would assume that you would coordinate siblings on the same A, B day stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now, some parents may not want that. Like, you might want to put them on opposite day, opposite schedules, but because of all the driving. But I mean, as far as morning, afternoon, but then you're talking a whole day of that. So you go once in the morning, drop them off in the afternoon, or then pick them up in the morning, then turn around and do the same thing in the afternoon for the other children. So you could do that. We'll try to work with those kind of requests, but right now we have to go stay pretty. We can't take recommendations for AM or PM. We have a lot of people who just prefer AM, and we just have to cut the alphabet and just schedule it. And but these are the concerns you are giving me are very valid. And like I said, this plan is not perfect. It's just it's like the best of bad plans. Like there's no great plan for this. And if the parents tell us that 50% of the kids are going to stay home for virtual, we will scrap this right now and we'll do something completely different. Because if that's the case, we can do other things, and we can give more attention to the kids that are on site, and we can have virtual teachers for the kids that are off site because of our numbers. But we can't make this plan based on that because we don't know.
Mm-hmm. You kind of got to wait for the parent survey.
Yeah. So our plan is based on having, 20 to 30% of kids maybe going virtual, and the rest of them coming on site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not. There's going to be issues either way we go on this. It's just really hard.
Do you have much more room for students that want to do that safe space?
Safe
Because the
center.
parents, they can't coordinate with their driving?
We don't have a lot of room for that.
Yeah, I think it's at max, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like students are going to miss out on a lot of, school time, if you will, being,
Because of the driving time,
Transported.
the transportation time.
transportation?
I mean, it's
Maybe
definitely going to.
commute time, if you
It's
will?
definitely going to eat into the day. We still have 5 hours of work, 2.5 hours here, 2.5 hours at home in their schedule, but it's definitely going to eat into like time that they're not on the road right now. So yeah, that's going to be an issue.
And then what did the CAC and your other groups?
The CAC input. I think that there were some really good comments regarding questions similar to what Lauren had. There was some concern about, and Kevin, your wife's teaching in a district that's doing an AM/PM model. There was somebody who had who has a relative in Lake Zurich because they're doing something similar, and they felt like that was hard. There's concern over if I want to stay full remote, and now it's not going to be as good as it is right now. And here's to be really honest with you. I mean, the families who are doing really well right now are families that their kids have a lot of support at home, and but there are kids that are really struggling hard. And if we make a decision to just stay remote, we're really doing those families a disservice, those kids a disservice. So it's just a hard thing right now. And I wish I could say we're going to bring some of our students back, but anybody who wants to stay at home, you're going to get the same support you're getting right now. We can't possibly do that with the personnel that we have, the number of personnel. But like I said, once we get the numbers back from parents, we'll have a better idea of what we're dealing with.
But then how are we fulfilling the state guidelines for each kid?
The 5
So-
hours?
Yeah, a day. But now I think it's 2.5 has to be synchronous a day, right?
Right.
How are the remote learning kids getting that per day? I know how they're getting it now. How
Yeah.
are they going to get it
Yeah.
if we go to
What could
this?
go in that, yeah.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you on that one. Because is that?
The state just says that we have to offer opportunities, I forget the exact language
Yeah.
of the state, but we have to offer either synchronous or asynchronous or combination of both, or some more than the other. It just has to be 5 hours of instructional time being provided. It's very vague.
I'm going to check on that too,
But
Kevin.
I can get the language, but essentially what it's saying is if we provided Apex learning to a child or Imagine learning to a child, as long as it's for 5.5 hours or 5 hours per day, then that would be meeting the state guideline, and I'm doing air quotes with that. But obviously that's not our goal. We want to make sure it's rigorous instruction for all. But essentially that's what the state says.
Do they say a percentage of how much has to be like live? Like, no.
I wish I had. So
No,
I'm
okay.
going to repeat what Michelle said because it wasn't heard on the mic. That the state is, their guidelines are for the 5 hours. We are going to, I know the recommendations are for the 2.5 hours synchronous and 2.5 hours asynchronous, but I think we're going to have to double check some things on that to make sure. But
So that's just a recommendation.
That's,
It's not.
yeah.
I'm going to honestly, I'm going
requirement?
to have to double check. I think that's just recommendation.
Okay.
But what
that
about our
your
stand,
Five
but,
hours is set in stone.
5 hours.
5 hours is set in
yeah.
stone.
but what
Yeah.
about our
Okay.
standards for our students
Right.
that are remote learners? Like, there's a different set of standards than if they're not getting
In person.
or if they're remote learners.
I guess, can you guys figure out a way to have teachers teach remote only? So the kids aren't getting no instruction, pretty much. You know what I'm saying?
So here's
doesn't seem
here's the
fair.
here's the challenge.
Yeah.
I'll kind of troubleshoot this with you. Middle school, we have I'm going to use math. We have 2 6th grade math teachers, and they each serve 100 students a day. So we bring them back in a blended, and they're seeing half of their students each day. I don't have another math teacher to teach 6th grade math to only those kids that went virtual. And I can't give, if I have 30% of the kids in virtual and 70% of the kids here, I can't give all 70% to the one teacher because then I can't do social distancing in those classrooms, and 30% to the virtual teacher. You know what I mean? So that's the logistical issues of it. At primary elementary, it's possible if we have enough parents choose the virtual model. It is possible. But then we're going to have to take kids that are currently in one class and peel them away from that teacher and put them in with a new virtual teacher, one trimester into the school year. So that's the issue with that. So that's why we didn't want to say that right now, but it really is, the number of virtual students that sign up are going to drive that decision, I think. But I'm just telling you what we've had to work through. I'm not saying we're right on it. I'm just saying it's what we're trying to work through.
I think that's, for me, as a parent, that would be a better option than my kid doing Apex learning or Imagine learning for 5 hours a
For
day.
5 hours. Yeah.
And not being able to talk to the teacher until Friday, or,
You feel like getting a new teacher.
I would
Would be
rather
better.
have that any day.
Yeah.
Right, because
Just
right
to
now,
give them
they don't have any physical relationship with the teacher other than what they see on Zoom.
On Zoom, right.
So I think that relationship can be transferred to a remote learning teacher.
It would be just like if you moved to a different town and your kid attended a new school. They would be meeting the new teacher.
Yeah.
So the middle school, we don't have a good solution for it because they don't have enough. You'd have to have content teachers in every one of those content areas to
Well,
teach those
I mean,
classes.
then I think the live stream comes in.
That's what I said, yeah.
I think that we can't have the full remote learning kids be staring in front of the computer and doing worksheets for 5 hours a day. I think that
Yeah, they'd definitely be missing out on,
they would be missing out on a lot.
yeah.
Because some of those parents don't have choices, like that there's kids that have illnesses or their work schedule and they can't drive
Yeah.
them.
They can't drive them, right?
So they're turning into like second class.
Okay.
I don't think that any of this stuff derails your
Mhm.
plan. For me,
Yeah.
it doesn't. I think
Yeah.
that getting the option for parents to get kids back in school is the most important thing we can do
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Or social, emotional aspect, just to
Right.
get them some kind of normalcy or just to feel like a kid again. I mean,
Yes.
they've been home since March. I mean,
Yeah. And that was kind of
Yeah.
our purpose for doing
I totally
this.
get that. I just don't want the remote learners to be forgotten about either.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
That's.
Yeah, and that has been, to be honest with you, it's been probably the biggest concern that's been shared even amongst our administrative team. And it's what I've heard from parents. I can't promise you right now that is an easy option at the middle school to fill. We can try, we're going to have to work on it, obviously.
The live streaming,
Mm-hmm.
is it just not are we not ready technologically for that?
We can do that. It's just,
I mean, teachers' comfort level, is that the concern?
I think that's part of it, trying to deal with, again, I think at the middle school it's going to be easier, but it's dealing with I got part of my students here, I got part of them here, and trying to manage both, you got a student in the room that's doing something that it shouldn't be doing, and trying to manage that behavior, you don't know what's going on here. So I think I feel like what's going to happen is that our middle school teachers are going to figure it out and it'll work well, but I can't say, I don't want to promise it to anybody right now because we haven't, it's not something we've ever done. And I have a staff that's just kind of teetering on the edge right now of stress, and I just didn't want to promise it if we can't deliver it. And that's what I'm concerned about, to be honest with you. But we do have time, so we're bringing 5th grade in first for 2 weeks, and then 6th grade for middle school, and so we have time to work on it, figure it out, and see if we can do it, and we have time to shut it down if it can't happen. But I know we're going to be asking parents. The challenge here is we're asking parents to make a decision soon, by the 5th of October, if they want this virtual or not, and if we can't.
But, I mean, for me, I think shutting it down for reasons for health is different than reasons of people being uncomfortable with their teaching environment. And I fully am immersed in teaching environment at my house. So I fully understand the stress and the stresses that it causes, but I know that I see countless teachers around this district adapt every time. They did it in March. They're going to do it again now. I think that we have it all over the building, believe in higher standards, and I think I do believe that, and I do believe that for this school. So I don't want to see a kid not have any access to a teacher for 5 hours a day. I don't think that accomplishes the goal of our district.
And will
It
parents
would
fully
make me
know
sad.
that? If they make a choice, will parents fully know, like if you were to choose to keep your child home remote learning, that you are not getting the same quality education?
I mean, I'm going to make it. I have it in my message to them that on the email that I have drafted, that the expectations won't be the same. I don't have it that it's going to be. I don't want it to. We don't know exactly how it's going to look, because it's like I said, a lot of it's going to be teacher by teacher, and it's going to develop over time. But I don't disagree with you. I mean, I don't want there to be no contact for 5 hours. this teacher's going to be teaching for 2 different sessions, 2.5 hours in person, the only way to do it would be for them to stream them into the classroom.
Can you use your building sub in the rooms to help the teacher out, manage the class that is in person? So you'd have 2 adults in the
Possibly.
room?
Yeah,
I mean, that would be one way to help.
yeah.
Or, I mean, like in K through 4, if you don't have enough, if you have the 70-30 plan and that means you can't release a teacher, then hire 8 permanent subs. I mean, at this point, I think that we have to look at things we've never done before. I think
Yeah.
you guys are doing that every day. And I mean, I don't,
Yeah, that's one, we've hired 9 permanent subs. And we were able to get it, barely. We had some of them wouldn't do the 4 days a week, so we paired up 2 and 2 and filled weeks. And I just think those people are going to be needed for when teachers have a child sick, or because all kids have to stay home now with any symptom at all. So that means parents got to stay home with them. And so yeah, that's where we get into the number of adults, the issue there. But so it sounds like the biggest concern for the board, and I totally get it because it's on our list too, is the quality of the virtual education if a family chooses that.
Yeah.
Okay.
and the busing,
Yeah,
And the
and the bus,
temp checks.
the temp-
Temp checks.
the self-certification.
The self-certification
Yes.
process.
Yeah, be a little better.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything else?
So we got to, I'm trying to think of how to proceed because
Well, I think we have a model to vote on. We have the hybrid model. I think that that's what we're
Voting on.
Okay.
voting on. I think everything else in here is district procedure that I don't necessarily think that we control.
So
We have input, but we don't. You
Yeah.
have control over that.
So you're really, but then what you're doing then is really charging us though with to try to figure out this virtual in a better way. than
Yes,
what-
figure out,
Yes.
and yes, and the
Okay.
buses.
Okay.
And I think, are we saying?
I don't think
hire
it's okay to ever.
people? Hire people?
I think that that's okay too.
I would think
think that
so.
If
for
we
us,
need to get
for
the
me,
body
there's
For
no-
virtual teachers, yeah.
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 Even if
Okay.
you get retired teachers who can only work 120 days, I mean,
Right.
that would be worth it.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Or like those leave teachers that you may have. If you've got 4 of them or however many of them, instead they do their leave, but they're not doing their leave now. They're the remote learning teacher, and that may change what they teach or what grade they teach. But
Yeah. but
you know
As long
what?
as
We
they're
all
in their
have to change.
certification area, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. We can go to the drawing board with some things on that. And we'll just, we'll do some troubleshooting this week. I'm going to have to think about how to message it with parents. I have to be honest and say at this point, you know, we're going to do what we can to make it a better environment than what we have on the paper.
Right.
But, all right, we can do that. Sounds good.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
No.
Can I please have a motion to approve the return to school model as presented by the administration?
Motion.
Second.
Julie and Tiffany.
Enters,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Mazer,
Yes.
Pedersen,
Yes.
Flesha.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on the board policy 4110 regarding the busing?
Well, what are we?
No, we're suspending it,
Suspending.
right?
We're suspending.
We're
Yes.
just suspending it for the, this school year, just in case we have to turn people away, because we
Right.
might have to. I don't know how else to,
Yeah, if we only can do
we
20
can only,
per
yeah,
bus.
we just can't bus everybody right now. Unless we're willing to put 40 kids on a bus. That would be, and I just, don't
then
know
it'd
if
be
that's
really
a-
hard for the bus drivers to
I don't
do
know if
the
that's a good
testing
idea,
then.
good
There's no
idea
way-
right now.
Driver be out there.
We're not testing yet.
Right.
No, I think that that's okay, unless we go back to full opening,
Right.
then I think,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
so if we go back to full opening, do you have to bring this back to us to reinstate it?
I would think.
I think that we will.
We're just suspending it, so I
Yeah,
think
you're
we can.
suspending it until we, yeah, I think
If
I
we're
probably
just-
will bring it back, but we will just
Just
go ahead
wait.
and just start busing everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Can I please have a motion to approve a recommendation to suspend board policy 4:110 for the 2020-2021 school year?
Motion.
Vivian and Doug?
Pierce,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Mazer,
Yes.
Pedersen,
Yes.
Fleischer.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on the employment of Ms. Mcmillan? Nope. Can I please have a motion to approve the employment of Melissa McMillan, bus driver, effective September 29th, 2020?
Motion.
Second.
Vivian and Julia?
Peter,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Mazer,
Yes.
Pedersen,
Yes.
Fleischer,
Yes.
and Pierce.
Yes.
All right. We accepted a resignation from Kimberly Yates, a bus driver, effective September 13th, and we've accepted a resignation from Mitchell Coates, middle school paraprofessional, effective October 9th. So Mr. Coates, he is going into the United States Air Force. Be safe.
Yep,
Yeah, be safe.
absolutely.
Can I please have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Tiffany and Vivian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Great. All in favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.